There, let me describe a pattern and see if it feels familiar for you. There was a time in your life when you felt energetic and optimistic. You stepped into responsibilities willingly. Work was exciting, your relationships felt meaningful, and you felt capable. But over time, people began to rely on you more and more at work, at home, in your circles. You became the dependable one. And for a long time, you carried it very well. But slowly, something started changing. You became more irritated by small things. Your patience started dropping out. You began preferring to be left alone. You are still functioning, maybe you're not showing up. And something inside feels different. That is how the silent burnout begins. Not with sudden collapse, but instead it builds quietly and it usually develops in predictable stages. So, today let's walk through this silent burnout curve and its 7 phases so you can recognize where you might be in that cycle. One of the biggest myths about burnout is that it happens only because of work pressure. But in reality, burnout usually starts from something very basic. It begins from the time you start carrying a lot and you start pushing through. For example, work responsibilities, family responsibilities, financial pressure, expectation from others. And often, people think the one who burn out are the weak ones. But no, they are not the weak ones. They are the most responsible ones. The ones who don't complain. The ones who keep everything moving. The silent burnout that high performers go through has a sequence, a curve. Let's take a look at what that curve is all about. Welcome to the Resilience Pulse, building personal mastery for high performing men. As mentioned earlier, there are 7 phases through which every high performing man goes through before they realize they are burnt out. What are those phases? Let's dive right away. Phase 1 is the energy phase. Now you see, every burnout cycle begins with energy. You step into a new phase of life, maybe a new role, maybe marriage, maybe parenthood, maybe leadership. And when that happens, there is excitement. You want to contribute, you want to prove yourself, you feel capable. Your brain is powered by all the new experiences and the motivation. And at this stage, burnout feels simply impossible. From the excitement of the energy phase, you then move into the reliability phase. Now, something very interesting and important happens here. People begin trusting you. You solve problems, you step in when things go wrong. Gradually, you become known as the dependable one. At work, people rely on you. At home, people rely on you. And all this feels good. But slowly, your identity becomes tied to these roles that you're playing. You are no longer just contributing, you are now responsible for holding things together. This phase is where growth happens. This is an important phase because it's here that your life expands. This is where you build upon the earlier stages and push for the life that you really want. Responsibilities increase, career grows, family grows, expectations, they grow. Your calendar becomes fuller. You begin stretching yourself more. You're working not just to survive or to prove yourself, but doing so for the growth and the ambitions that you have and the leap that you must take to move forward. You still feel capable, but the pressure is quietly building. This phase is where the burnout cycle truly begins. Because you are dependable, more things come your way. More decisions, more tasks, more emotional overload. And often you say yes to taking more, not because you want praise, but because you feel responsible. But something very important changes here. Your recovery time begins shrinking. You are always responding, always thinking about what comes next. Burnout doesn't begin when you are exhausted. Burnout begins when your responsibilities grows faster than you have time to recover. This phase is the stress phase. Now, the gap between your responsibilities that you're taking up and your recovery becomes more and more visible. You start noticing subtle signals. You feel more irritated by small things. Your patience reduces. Your sleep patterns gets disturbed. You start feeling that you are no longer the same person you used to be. You are still functioning, so you ignore all the warning signals, warning signs, and instead of slowing down, you start pushing harder. This is where stress starts affecting you. Stage 6 is the stage of the functional freeze. This is the phase many people misunderstand. What started in the stress phase starts to become normal now. Everything still looks normal. You're still working, still managing responsibilities, but internally things are feeling different. Your enthusiasm drops, your creativity just fades, and you are physically present but you're mentally lost. You feel frozen. This is a protection mechanism of our bodies when our stress continues for a longer period of time and it exceeds a certain threshold. Our nervous system halts all the non essential functions. Psychologists call this as the functional freeze. This is the phase where you just go through the daily motions, but you feel stuck, you feel caged. The last phase in the curve is the phase of the silent burnout. Now, in this phase, the disconnection becomes very clear. What was internal till now starts showing up externally. You begin withdrawing, you prefer being left alone, you avoid conversation, your confidence drops. This is where your family and close friends start observing that something is missing. They realize that you are going through something very deep. But deep within you, you feel like a shadow of your previous confident self. You know that you are not completely collapsed, but you are quietly and always exhausted. This is the silent burnout. It's not just us, even elite athletes go through this cycle. And one powerful example is Michael Phelps. We know him as the most decorated Olympian in history. At the peak of his career, around the 2012 London Olympics, he had already won multiple Olympic gold medals. Externally, he looked successful and unstoppable, but internally, he was exhausted and lost motivation. The pressure of the expectations and the pressure of the constant performance drove him into burnout. What helped him recover was not pushing harder, it was stepping back, prioritizing his mental health and rebuilding his relationships with the sport. And after that, he went on to win much more greater glory. Even the strongest of the performance must respect recovery. If you remember nothing else from this conversation, remember just this one point. Burnout does not happen suddenly, it develops gradually. And the real danger is not the final stage, it is the stage of overcommitment and not recognizing the patterns. The earlier you recognize the patterns and the earlier you interrupt the cycle, the easier it will be for you to bounce back. As we come to the end of today's video, here's a simple question for you. Which phase are you in right now? Think about it. Recognizing that phase is the first step towards reclaiming your energy and building resilience. This is the Resilience Pulse. If this conversation resonated with you, please do consider subscribing. We will continue exploring more topics on building personal mastery for people who carry a lot of responsibility. The world today desperately need people like you. Take care. Bye bye.